Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Pope Metallicus, and welcome back to Rock and Roll Religion, where we have a great one for you today. One of the founders of black metal, and really just a well-respected band, even though they had a fairly short career. We are talking Mercyful Fate, which is going to be a great fucking show for you guys. So let me bring in the panel. As always, joining me is Imperitus. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up?
And then the usual crew today. We have SgtHerbs.
What is up? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for being here.
Hell yeah.
And we also have the Sentinel. How's it going, man?
Hail, what's up?
Hail, Sentinel. And we are we all excited to talk about this friggin' band because they are one of the legends.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Even though they only really had a few albums.
I'm excited to learn more about them because I know a lot about King Diamond. I've got basically almost all of King Diamond stuff, but
I'm the same way where I came backwards into Mercyful Fate. I listened to all of King Diamond stuff, and then I found out he was in Mercyful Fate too. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go listen to that, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I always knew he's in Mercyful Fate. It's just, you know how sometimes, there's that guy that you should be listening to, but you just never get around to it, and then you're reminded that you need to go back and actually listen to it. I hope this is that situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many bands with like that where I mean to get to them, and I've been meaning to listen to them, then I just never do. But no, man, this is going to be a good one, and their album art is freaking fantastic too. Like, look at that.
Yeah, thing. I like this one.
That is
a lot.
Pure evil. I love it.
That'll be something I'd want to put up on like a like canvas art or like tapestry, kind of like what I've got behind me. It's fucking sick.
Oh yeah, I mean it's. Hey, we got Lord Thoth and Papa Cotton. What's up, boys?
What is up?
Good to see you guys. Dragon Master, this is the cover art for Melissa, the first Mercyful Fate record. I don't know why I blanked on that. It's sitting right in front of me. But it's freaking great. We got Space Zombie in the chat too.
What is up?
Got the whole crew here today.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Which is good to see. And before we really get into it, we just passed 100 subs, which is fucking awesome.
Nice.
That's that happened last night apparently, while I was asleep. So
Congrats,
we're at like 104 right now, which is fucking awesome. So thank you all, both to the panel and to the chat. You guys made this happen, and this is fucking insane. I didn't think I'd even get here, let alone actually get here inside of a year.
Hell
which
yeah,
is awesome. So thank you all. But as to Mercyful Fate, this first record, even as it comes in, like I was saying backstage, reminds me a lot of early Queen and a lot of 70s Judas Priest in the riffage and stuff like that. And obviously, I mean, then you hear King Diamond sing, and it's just like, this doesn't sound like anything else anymore, other than King Diamond. But he just had that. It's a very interesting calling this black metal because musically it's much more trad heavy.
That's the impression that I got listening to them. Like, you can hear some influences where, so like on this album specifically, I was mentioning, like, it does sound like they were kind of going for an older, old school, like Judas Priest sound. And I, now that you mention it, like I do hear a little bit of like the old school Queen sound in it as well. And I was thinking, like, this is black metal. Like, it makes sense for the 80s, right? Because this was like when they were first trying to figure out like what's the heaviest we can play, right?
Yeah.
Typically when I think of black metal is like way off, totally different sound.
You think more like second wave stuff, like
like
Emperor, stuff like that. And there are bands like that in the first wave. Bathory specifically is a lot like that, and Celtic Frost as well. But we'll get into them in their own video because they have an interesting history. And the funny part was their first album was actually released like 10 years after or their only album was actually released like 10 years later when they weren't even that band anymore. But yeah, in '83 when this came out, this was pretty hard. Like this
Yeah.
was out there, and especially when you're talking, Satanism and the lyrics and stuff like that, and especially King Diamond's stage show where he's got the face paint and all that. That's where that came from. In black metal was King Diamond.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so like they were very out there in terms of bands in '83.
So this, you could say this is definitely proto black metal.
Well, this is why they're the first wave, and some people claim they're black metal. Some people don't. Me, it's mostly lyrical, but they fit. And the first wave of black metal was black metal figuring out what the hell it was. So you had bands like Venom who are a lot faster and more punky. You had Bathory who really ironed out and perfected what would be black metal going forward. And then you had 100% Commander Phil. Motorhead was the impetus behind all of these guys.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like Venom and Bathory specifically, like state Motorhead and everything. And probably these guys too. Although, like I said, there's probably a lot of Queen and Judas Priest in here as well in their DNA. Which this one, the funny part is the title track is the only one I'm not a huge fan of on this.
I would agree. When I listened to that song, I was like, "Are they going for a power ballad? No. Are they?"
It's like
I was like back and forth. I was like, it sounds like it could be a power ballad, but at the same time, like it's not. And it's like it's one of those tracks where it doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the songs.
Where everything else just flows perfectly.
Yeah. And my guess is maybe it has something to do with the vocalist like knew someone personal to him that was important to him, something like that. Maybe like an old flame or something like that he wanted to dedicate the album to. But yeah, interesting choice nonetheless. But yeah, it's it does not fit. I would agree with that. It does not fit with the rest of the album. Not a fan of it either. It's just hard to say for sure.
And Papa Cotton's completely correct here. Lemmy is God.
Lemmy is the second coming of Jesus Christ, and nobody knew.
Dragon Master, don't listen to Motorhead to go to sleep. It's not going to work.
Question for the panel in the chat. Can you be a black metal band and have vocals like King Diamond? High falsetto.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they are a black metal band.
Black metal isn't just about like, the vocal or sound style. It's also about what the lyrics encompass and.
Yeah, like lyrically, they're black metal as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they are right up there with Bathory when it comes to their lyrics and content. Musically, they're very different. They're much more regular heavy metal than they are, or speed metal even in some cases, than they are black metal, which is not unusual for that first wave. I mean, these guys would influence a lot of bands going on into the 90s in the second wave, like, Mayhem, Burzum, those guys, because these guys were all listening to them.
If you think about some of the limitations music-wise, like back in the 80s, I don't know of a whole lot of bands that, at least early 80s, that were using double bass pedals, guitarists that were doing like a ton of tremolo picking. Like those are like the main features of the songs, like what you would think of with second wave black metal especially. And there's not a huge at least at that point in time, I don't think that there was like a huge use of synths with metal as well. Like there are some bands that did, but that's more like at that time that was kind of like prog rock, really, rather than heavy metal.
That came in more towards like the late 80s.
Right. And this is like 83, 84. Like this album.
This is 83. This is 83. Yep.
Yeah. So this is just kind of like as you said, it's the start of black metal. They're not really using all of the things that we would typically think of when we hear or think of black metal. And that's not to say that they weren't heavy. Like they were definitely pushing the envelope on it.
Oh yeah, I mean they are. They were out. I mean, these guys were right out on the ragged edge of where music
that's
was.
just it,
in
though.
the
These
80s.
guys caught a lot of shit because at the time, King Diamond was the only metal musician who openly admitted to being a Satanist.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rest of them kind of like did it like, oh yeah, it's tongue in cheek. It's not really. And then King Diamond was like, yeah, no, I worship the devil straight up. And then everyone's just like,
Yeah, if you can go find like old interviews with him, you can see the look on like the interviewer's face, like, oh, he's serious. Shit.
It's like I did not have a follow up for that.
That's funny. That is funny. And now it's like not even a tongue-in-cheek thing anymore. Like a lot of people, it's I don't know if I want to call it trend chasing, but it is like a pretty typical thing to see with just metal in general.
It's become part of the black metal scene in a big way.
Yeah, for sure.
Of guys actually being Satanists, and some of them get like super serious with it, like Gall and people like that, where they're like
John Nodvite.
Yeah.
Where they take it way too seriously, but that's to be expected. They take themselves way too seriously too.
Yeah. I don't know what the name of the band was, but there was one guy who tried to start a black metal band somewhere in Europe, and he apparently like went balls to the wall crazy with it. Like he started his own like satanic cult sort of, and I think it's like Order of the Nine Angles or something weird like that. But he like wrote books on it, and he's like really out there crazy. Like I can't remember if he was the same guy that burned down a church and like killed somebody inside, or
that shit started happening in the 90s. That was a thing for a while, especially in Norway.
Yeah. I think it was Norway. I'm not sure. I don't remember all the details, but I just remember hearing a story about this like one dude who kind of like went batshit insane with it. And of course his band didn't really go anywhere either because he got arrested for what he did.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that would have been Mayhem.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Varg did get arrested for killing Euronymous.
Yeah, maybe that is the same guy. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, the Lord of the Nine Angles was based out of the UK.
Okay. The UK. Okay. Yeah, it's not the same guy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting too, in that a lot of heavy metal up to this point had been coming out of the UK and the US.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of Scandinavia's first intro. I mean, Mercyful Fate's from Denmark, and then
okay.
Lars brought him in and totally influenced Metallica because he's definitely Danish, proud of it, and he probably is good friends.
I think he's sweet. I think he's Swedish, actually.
Oh, Lars? No,
yeah,
he's from Denmark.
Oh, okay.
Copenhagen, Denmark. Yeah, his father's a famous tennis player who died recently, Tolben Ulrich, something like that. Okay. And Lars actually came over to the States in 1980 to be, to learn to play tennis professionally and to be a professional tennis player. And like a couple months into that, he threw down the racket and started a metal band because he had heard Motorhead and his life changed.
Yeah, I mean that happened a lot in 1980 because that was the year they did Ace of Spades, and we're going to do a whole stream just on that record because the impact of that record still has reverberations today. Like there are still bands that are influenced by Motorhead.
1980 was such a goddamn good year for heavy metal.
It really was. We got Motorhead, we got Iron Maiden's first record, we got freaking Diamond Head came out with a record. Judas Priest came out with British Steel.
Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. And it was just like their first with Ronnie James Dio.
Right. Well, their original guitarist, who was it again? It was... Well, no, it's fucking... I'm thinking of it's a completely different guy. When Ozzy went and did his solo stuff, Randy Rhoads. That's what I'm thinking of. He passed away pretty young.
Yeah, unfortunately, he died in a plane crash in like 1982. So he's only on like 2 Ozzy records.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And unfortunately for him, those are 2 of the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, Randy Rhoads made Ozzy's solo stuff really good.
Oh,
That's like the stuff
absolutely.
that people go to when they think of Ozzy.
Although he has had a talent for picking guitar players, because Jake E. Lee and Jack Wild are both excellent as well.
I would agree. Yeah, Zach Wild is awesome. But yeah.
And Jake E. Lee is responsible for stuff like The Ultimate Sin, Rock, and Bark at the Moon, stuff like that.
Yep.
So he's pretty good. And I would definitely say that the 80s were metal or hard rock and heavy metal's heyday. Like
Golden era, yeah.
This was the golden age for heavy metal, because the 70s saw it burst and kind of grow a little bit, and then in the 80s, like, you had different genres spinning out of heavy metal almost every year. I mean, in the late 70s, you started seeing stuff like speed and power metal come out with bands like Rainbow and Motorhead, and even Priest to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, in the 80s, you have thrash, black metal, death, all of this shit just spark out in very short order. And like, you just saw this massive expansion of the genre, and all of a sudden everybody was playing heavy metal. It was on the radio, it was in the movies, it was on TV. Like,
yeah.
And like, these guys were one of the leading edge of that.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, like Imperitus said, they tried to grab for a little bit of commerciality, and their singer said nope.
Tried to sell out, basically.
Yep.
And
King Diamond wasn't having it.
They went, I think, is his name Michael Denner, the guitar player?
Andy LaRoque, at least on this one.
No, for Mercyful Fate, I mean.
Yeah, this is Andy.
He
Andy
did
LaRoque.
like an AOR album after.
He's done a ton of stuff with other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, AOR is good for what it is. If it's designed as AOR, it's fine. But it's one of those. It's one of those. If it's supposed to, if you're a band like Mercyful Fate, and then you do something like, AOR, people are going to look at you funny. It's like, weren't you guys just singing about Satan like 5 minutes ago? Arcusful, I can't. I mean, Sabaton's certainly one of the most successful power metal bands out now, but I wouldn't say they're the poster child for it. Blind Guardian's up there, Hammerfall. There's a bunch of bands that are around, but Sabaton's the one that gets talked about.
Sabaton's the most. Yeah, Sabaton right now is the most successful. Yeah, they're the face of power metal right now for sure. But power metal has been around since the late 70s, practically, with Rainbow. Then you get into the 80s. I would say that Heaven and Hell album by Black Sabbath is borderline power metal. That
certainly counts. There's a lot of the sword and the sorcery aspect in it.
Yeah, because of that Dio connection. And then
I mean, there is a line of thinking in heavy metal, and it's not completely incorrect, that any band that Ronnie James Dio joins just immediately just becomes Dio.
Yeah. I would argue that like, if you're gonna look at like the face of power metal, I'd put up Dio, because I mean, yeah, like what he released with was that album called Rainbow when he first came out, or was it
Rainbow Rising? Rainbow Rising,
yeah. That's probably like one of the most impactful albums, I would say. It was just so phenomenal with the musicianship and like the lyrics and everything. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about Sabaton because they're really good, for sure. Just currently the most successful, I would say. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that. But
and we are going to be doing a show on Sabaton fairly soon here, because I've gotten some requests for it, and it's a band I like talking about. I've seen them live like 4 times, so they're a fantastic band, and they actually are fans of these guys. It's like, it's funny, like you'll hear certain names just rattle around the entire industry from beginning of stuff all the way till today, and you'll hear the same names start popping up.
Yep, absolutely.
And I've always been more of a fan of King Diamond, and then that drew me back in on the back end into Mercyful Fate, which I'm glad it did, because they're fantastic as well.
So one of the interesting things, yeah, going back to this band, one of the interesting things that I found was, listening to the drums. I definitely heard a little bit of like the old school sort of like punk thrash sound in some of the songs, and listening to the fills too. I was like, man, it's almost like I was listening to like old school Exodus. It was like, was Exodus listening to this band to get some of their sounds? Like,
Honestly,
That's
given when
all.
Exodus came out, probably.
Yeah, it wouldn't
yeah,
surprise me at all.
yeah.
Because you're right. There's a lot of early thrash in this.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's I don't know if it's intentional, but I think it was just really that push of like, what's the heaviest sound that we can go for? What's like the most angry, like metal sounding sound we can get out of, with what we can play? And it was just like, I'm digging this. I'm liking this. Yeah. They've definitely got quite a few different things in there that it's like I'm listening to it. I'm like, yeah, they're trying to push for like what they think is the heaviest at that time. And yeah, back to like the whole like thing with the title track. That's why I was like, this just doesn't sound like Merciful Fate like everything else I heard
Yeah,
in all the
everything
other
else
songs.
is just hard as fuck, and now it's just like kind of backed off a little bit. It's just like,
Yeah, it's still a pretty like heavy song. It's just like compared to everything else, like it was mild.
Yeah, I mean, compared to everything else that was coming out in '83, it's still pretty heavy, but like everything else on this album is just on another level.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
one I don't think they hit with the title track, but like, Curse of the Pharaoh is probably my favorite on this one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
either that or the first track, Evil.
Evil. Yeah.
Which they're both fucking good.
And those are two songs that Metallica covered in their little Merciful Fate medley in Garage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in Garage Inc. That's right. That's right. I wondered why that sounded familiar. Because when I was listening to those songs, I was like, have I heard this before?
James Hetfield vocalist and King Diamond vocals is like, will confuse you because I know what you're talking about. It's like, what? I've heard this before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And Metallica definitely doesn't go for that exact same sound, but yeah, it was.
Because they can't. I mean,
James Hetfield can't sing like that.
James Hetfield is never going to be King Diamond.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong; he has his own vocal style, and that works for them. But
he does a funny King Diamond impression, though.
Does he?
Have you ever seen his King Diamond impression?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, it's in this one clip from Some Kind of Monster. He's singing something from that trash album in anger, and he just starts going off. I see a witch in the middle of my bed. It's pretty funny. If you ever see that movie again, look out for it.
What's funny is the series that just dropped on Netflix recently, Bastard, that has all the metal references. One of the enemies is a vampire named Amon, who is
absolutely 110% King Diamond. Yeah.
Yes.
Like they could not have gotten any closer to his exact look and appearance without getting sued.
Actually, I don't know, because it's weird. When the anime came out in the 90s and they released it over here in some formats, they edited all the names, so it didn't have all the metal references. The one on Netflix did not.
Interesting.
So, and even in the subtitled 90s version, they were edited.
That's weird. Maybe there was legal action pending.
Maybe.
And it got settled out somewhere along the line. But that is interesting. That
it makes me wonder if
it's just in the US version too.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they were fine with it as long as it stayed in Japan. And as soon as they decided they were going to bring it here, they were like, okay, you got to do something about that. Because if you're listening, they'll say something, even though they're speaking in Japanese, they'll say like a band name and you can understand it. But what's in the
they'll just use the
subtitle
English word for it.
Yeah, but the subtitle was different.
That's interesting.
What was the anime called?
Bastard.
Oh, dude, I have been hearing a lot of people recommend watching Bastard.
It's good. It's good.
It's a very good show. You should definitely get into it. I've been watching a little bit of it here and there.
Nice.
When the guy's main attack spell is called Venom.
Yeah, it's like a little on the nose there, boys.
That's awesome, though.
Bands referenced in it have been King Diamond for the one character, Yngwie Malmsteen. They've
Yep.
referenced Dave Mustaine, except Venom, Sodom, Slayer, Halloween, Megadeth. They're all referenced.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's one, and I love being that guy that's like sitting in the corner, like, wow, you guys are just not subtle at all, are you?
And it's awesome. And the main
No,
character is a prick, which makes me like him even more.
I'm on the Netflix. I'm on the Netflix website right now, and it says when evil forces threaten to resurrect Anthrax, the god of destruction, the kingdom of Meta-Laconica calls on a dark volatile wizard for help. I might just. Can I buy that on like Blu-ray somewhere so I don't have to?
Yeah,
I
probably.
don't know. The old version, maybe, but this one just came out within the past like month or two.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
yeah, that is interesting that the U.S. version is different. I think you might be right that a lot of bands are probably like, hey, in Japan, that's one thing.
As far as I know, like, because I watched the subtitle version, the main big evil thing is still called Anthrax in both Japanese and American, and it's their little play on anthrax. And then
That's funny.
And the kingdom's name is Metallicana.
Yeah, so like they're definitely not referencing those bands at all.
Hell, the other kingdom that gets wiped out was named Judas.
Oh, gee. So they're going for all of the big hits.
That is
everything
funny.
that they can.
Yeah, that was, and it's weird because people don't realize this metal is fucking huge in Japan.
Oh yeah,
like especially in like this period in like the mid '80s, like you were considered like that was considered like the moment you've made it is when you play at the Budokan.
Yeah.
And like when you play big, a big venue in Japan, that's when like you're like absolutely at the top of your game.
Yeah, because there aren't a lot of big venues in Japan.
Yeah, there's like 3 that people would play in Tokyo. And then they had one with the Budokan was originally like I think it was originally a sumo wrestling
believe
arena.
so, yeah.
And there was actually a big uproar of doing anything but sumo there because it was like that's a cultural thing for the Japanese, and they were really mad about it.
I don't even think they were happy when pro wrestling started going in there.
No, they weren't.
Even like the Japanese federations, and it's funny because if you go and watch like the big Japanese pro wrestling federation, New Japan Pro Wrestling, it looks like they're wrestling in bingo halls.
And they probably are.
For their TV. They're not in arenas because arenas are not a thing in Japan.
Yeah.
They have a few, but it's not like it is in the States.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, they don't really have very many organized sports other than baseball.
You'd be correct. And their baseball stadiums are smaller than American ones.
Yep, they're tiny.
Yeah.
And most of them are. I remember watching an exhibition game in Japan one time, and it was like basically the MLB All-Stars went over and did an exhibition match in Japan, and David Ortiz cranked a homer that literally went like 515 feet, and the only reason it stopped was because it hit the dome. And like you saw like the entire Japanese team just run out of their dugout. Like, what was that?
We've never seen somebody hit a homer like that.
I mean, they probably haven't. Nope.
Yeah.
Most people in the U.S. haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Which is why I always loved Ortiz. He was once he got a hold of something, it was just fucking gone.
Yeah.
And you could tell just by the way it came off the bat too. It was just like, yeah, that thing just left this plane of reality. But yeah, Japan is very different when it comes to like sports and stuff like that. It's basically sumo and a couple of other things, and kendo and a couple of other things, but those don't require a large space. So big arenas are pretty rare.
They are,
and also they have a ton of people and not a lot of land. So
they are bigger with martial arts for sure as sporting events. But yeah, as far as like the kind of sports that we have, I think baseball is really the only one for them. But yeah.
And it's got to be weird for bands coming from Europe over to the States too, in that, I mean, a band like Sabaton will play things like the House of Blues or, smaller venues, like maybe 2,000, 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then overseas, I mean, Sabaton's a perfect example because they'll get like a 1,500, 2,000 person crowd in the US. Meanwhile, in Europe, they're selling out like 80,000 person soccer arenas.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
And they have a
they're
lot of outdoor festivals and stuff out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like you'll have like 120,000 people
Mm-hmm.
at some of these festivals, and even in South America too. Like Rock in Rio is a huge show.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Yeah.
considered the biggest in the world at this time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a huge event. You see a lot of big names go to Rock in Rio.
Yeah, and Soul Assassin is correct. They have their own history channel,
Mm.
where they talk about the history of their songs,
Okay.
because all their songs are written about military history. So, like, I love it when bands have a theme that they stick to, like Mercyful Fate, with basically not only just Satanism but horror.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think going into the next album, which again, absolutely awesome album art, and definitely no false advertising here. You know exactly what you're about to listen to.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
going to be dark. It's going to be creepy, and you're going to love it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some songs on here where they do lean a little bit more into the horror themes, which I like it. I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, I like where they went with it, and this is where King Diamond would continue going with his stuff, where basically his album should have just straight up horror stories. At least, and all the good ones were fantastic. Like, and he has the perfect voice for it too, because he has that like unholy like wail to his voice that he can put on, and it is just beautiful. And he can go up and down the range so quickly too.
Yeah, yeah. He really does show that on this album, I think, because there were some parts where he went pretty low. It was like, holy shit, what?
Yeah, his natural range is actually fairly low, but when he gets into that falsetto, it's just like, oh man, because he has that like very eerie quality to his voice that he can put on at any time, and like he does that a lot more with King Diamond than Merciful Fate. But like, you know, he'll play be speaking as multiple characters in some of his albums, and like playing it off like that, and like it'll go straight up and then straight back down again, and that's hard to do. And he is just one of the best ever to do at it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done some vocal training and going through different like octave ranges. That shit can be hard. It takes a lot of practice. It really does. But yeah.
Hey, Sherry, glad you could make it. And Boosh is here as well. So we got the entire gang. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
this is, I think, like you said, backstage herbs. I think this is where their sound really gelled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The sound is a lot more cemented than the previous one. It was like they were going hard in the first record, but I think they were just doing it to go hard because that's what they wanted to do. And and didn't know what the reaction to it was going to be, so they just went for it and then saw how it looked. And then the very few things that I didn't like about the previous record, they fix here.
Mm-hmm.
Was Stone Break the Oath in 1984?
Yep.
Okay.
It was weird. They had two albums in 2 years, and then it would be another 3 until the beginning, which was interesting. I think they were just touring that entire time.
Yep. That would make sense. And it's a lot more common now, and I think it's just because of the way record labels work. But it's a lot more common now to see bands will have to, because of their labels telling them to, but they have to try to put out a record like either every year or every other year. So a lot of times you get bands that are writing while they're touring on the road.
Yeah.
Or they're writing within like the 2 to 3 month period that they get back home from tour. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of fucking work for some bands, but some can swing it, man.
And some of them enjoy it. Sabaton does that on every one of their tours. It's literally just album tour constantly, and they like being out on the road. Motorhead was like that too.
Yep.
And Merciful Fate, I don't know. I haven't heard of them as prolific tours, but they weren't around as long.
Yeah. But have like a 3 year stint where they're touring between the second and third album. That means they were really fucking successful with it. But
they were really one of these overnight successes where like some bands it took like 2-3 albums for them to really get discovered and really break out. And then with bands like Merciful Fate, it was just like immediate smash hit. I think everybody was talking about these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was one of those like, oh, like, okay, well, get a second one out and then get out on the road. And I guarantee their label was, pushing them to do that.
Oh,
In a
yeah.
lot of ways.
It's
In ways of
absolutely
just like,
amazing. Every
oh, yeah.
single, yeah. I was just going to say that it seems like bands were putting out more consistent quality stuff when they're writing constantly every year, doing the album tour thing than they are now, because several years pass by and they're just not constantly, in that conditioning where they can write and play at a high level.
That's true as well. And some of it too is you get the opportunity to overthink it.
Yeah.
Like when you're in that fast paced environment, you just have to, get what you get and then go with it.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, you can really, you kind of screw yourself in a way because you can take your time and really, like produce things at a very methodical level. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't need to be there and stuff like that. So like, there's something to be said for both. Like the quality of something that's taken time on can be incredibly high, but I think but for some reason, I think a lot of it, they get too much time to think about it, and
it ends up like Chinese democracy.
Yeah. Or Saint Anger.
Yep.
Or if we
glorified kind of demo that they just throw together.
Saint Anger does not exist in my
no, it doesn't.
reality.
It's a mass hallucination. It never happened.
It
Is
never
Saint Anger
happened.
worse than Load?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow.
It's like that Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. It never happened.
What movie?
That
Exactly.
live action Last Airbender movie.
What movie?
Yeah, exactly. That never happened. That never
It
happened.
never happened.
And people should stop trying to insinuate that it did. That was one of those, like, I'm amazed you could do something this bad with this material.
Yeah, one of my like top 10 favorite as far as like because there's different levels to anime or whatever, but yeah, like I do like the darker stuff, more bloody and gory stuff as far as anime goes. What was the other one? Was the guy where the writer recently passed away, and people have been making a huge deal about it because like his team
Berserk.
around him, Berserk. Yeah, I watched the old 90s anime that they did, and now I'm like, I want to go out and buy the manga, but they're like almost always sold out for the omnibuses. It's hard to find.
Yeah, Berserk is seeing a lot of success right now, and I'll have to get into it because I've never seen it, and I hear guys like Gundam and Fizz Jozo raving about it constantly.
It's a good one.
Imperitus, I think you've seen it, right?
Which?
Berserk.
Berserk.
Yeah, oh yeah,
it's a good one. Yeah,
that's up there on my list of some of the best media of all time.
All right, I'll definitely have to get into it then.
If you liked the old school animes like Akira or Akira, however you want to say it, or like Ninja Scroll, like just really dark, gruesome, and bloody.
I really enjoy those.
Yeah,
Berserk takes that to a whole new level.
It does. It does. It stands on its own pedestal.
Just go watch a clip of what they refer to as the eclipse scene.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. But
speaking of darker animes, I actually just did a stream with Fizz not too long ago on Monster. I just finished that. That was interesting. It's like from like 2004. It's actually really good.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Is that the one about the German doctor?
Japanese doctor in Germany. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a really good one. And I like how it's a very good, interesting art style. It's very realistic.
Okay.
And it's one of those that's set in the real world, so they don't really get all fantastical with it. So it's pretty grounded, which I enjoy. And I also like a lot of the older stuff too, like Trigun, freaking Outlaw Star. Rurouni Kenshin was always one of my favorites. But no, like Berserk. It seems to be a very metal anime.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it like the way it builds up the story, and then yeah, what Imperatus mentioned, like when you get to the eclipse, it just like it yeah, it just it's on a whole other level, man. As far as like brutality and how dark things get. And yeah, it's I'll just say this, like the anime that you'll watch, the like it's very toned down to what the like what you actually read in the manga. The manga is like
The 90s
extremely,
anime is the new one is not so much.
yeah. I don't like the new anime so much. It just
It doesn't bother. I know why it bothers some people. It doesn't bother me too much.
it's not bad for sure, but yeah.
Well, they tried blending 2D and 3D, and
Yeah, that when
The art
that works,
style is
it
a
can
little
either go
weird.
when they go with that, it can either work or not. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't, it's horrible.
It's not necessarily that they discarded the story and like it's really bad in
well,
that
the
sense.
90s anime was only one story arc.
Yeah, it was only
It was only the beginning story arc.
the Band of the Hawks.
Yeah, the Golden Age arc, it's called.
Yeah.
But the newer series goes past, even though they did cut out a short story arc in the new series, and they even said that we really didn't want to show that on TV.
And when the Japanese are saying that, you know it's from
It's the Village
bad.
of the Moth Girl. If you've read the manga, Herbs,
Mm,
they cut
okay.
that out, and I can understand why they wouldn't want to show that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was what the fuck.
Yeah.
But they did the Inquisition arc, and that was brutally dark.
As expected when you name something after the Inquisition.
Yeah, and the Troll arc wasn't exactly nice either.
Yeah.
So I mean, they did tone it down a little bit, but not as bad as they did with the '90s series.
Yeah, that is true. You do get a little bit of a better idea of like what the manga is like with the newer series. Just
And
how dark
I
it
feel
get.
like toning it down does it a disservice in a lot of ways because people who would not be into the manga will then be like, "Oh yeah, Berserk. I've read I've seen the series. Now I want to read the manga," and then they have no idea what the hell they're about to unleash on their eyes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's why I find it funny every time somebody on like Twitter brings up Berserk, like, "Oh my god, I can't. This guy was a misogynist." It's like, shut the fuck up.
It's like,
You don't
no,
even
go
know
away.
what you're talking about.
It's like, oh no, because he used women in a violent scene. He must get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's like, go away.
Yeah.
It's called shock and horror.
Yeah, it's like it's done for effect. Now
Yeah.
it's and people like, it's like, okay, whatever. Like that's how you know when you're dealing with someone who isn't a fan. We deal with it in Warhammer 40K all the time too, where that setting gets fucking dark.
Soul
Yeah.
Assassin's got it right in the chat. The first series was PG-13. The new one was TVMA.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. Basically.
And then no, but 40K gets fucking dark.
It does, but I mean, it also gets a little silly at times.
Yeah, it goes over the top into like really grimdark, like overly grimdark for its own sake. It's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
That's what I like about the BattleTech universe is that it's dark, and it's brutal, and it's gritty,
And it's also realistic.
Yeah, even with the giant stompy robots, it still has realism.
Yeah, and like in terms of like the political intrigue and stuff like that in BattleTech, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Machiavellian, but it is how people react.
And Herbs, these are not like Japanese style mechas. These are big, lumbering. You could see somebody like 50 to 100 years from now making the prototypes of something like this.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I find funny about BattleTech is some of the companies that are still around.
Yeah, like GM, that makes me laugh all the fucking time I see.
Yeah. One of the best mechs in the original 3025 era is the Marauder, brought to you by General Motors,
who has their own autocannon. Has their own autocannon division. Why? Because fuck that guy specifically over there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's funny. General Motors.
Yeah, that was one of Tex's things. It's like autocannons because fuck that guy in particular.
Yeah, I want to get a hold of him, see if I can't turn that into a t-shirt.
Oh, absolutely. I think he'd tell you to just go for it.
I'm sure, but always, it's always good to ask permission.
But no, Texas videos. If you guys haven't seen Tex Talks BattleTech, go watch it.
Yeah, highly recommend.
That guy is hilarious, and he knows his shit when it comes to lore too.
Even his streams, when he's streaming stuff that isn't BattleTech, can be absolutely pricelessly funny.
Oh yeah, he just does shit because he thinks it's fun.
Oh, that's always fun. Yeah,
hearing him howl with a madman's laughter from Artie striking a fucking area in one of the Battlefield games and just wiping the enemy team out to the point where he leveled up twice.
Yeah, and he's just laughing maniacally in the back.
And he's like, and this is where I got this term from, was from him, and I'm sure he stole it from somewhere else. That's what I love about artillery. It's God's paintbrush.
Yeah, I mean, he is a great dude too. No, like he doesn't make money off his channel. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, he does not. People ask him all the time, why don't you have super chats? And he's like, because I have a job.
Yeah,
I'm doing this for fun.
And he said it on streams in the past where if he started getting paid for it, it would stop being fun to him and it would show.
Yeah, the only money he takes in is Patreon, and that's so he can turn around and give some money to the people who help him with some of the projects he does. Like they'll do like commercials set in the BattleTech universe.
Yeah.
And some of those are fucking hysterical.
Yeah. And like the references they put in are fucking great too.
And he'll toss him a bit of money, or he'll just turn around and use the money to buy him and other members of his team games so they can stream them.
Yeah, he'll also pay artists to do like art and stuff like that for the videos. And like some of the animations, like the Steiner Assault Squad is just priceless.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the one where the Steiner Assault Squad infiltrates Karita.
Oh god, that one's hysterical.
He's just standing there in an Atlas.
Hello.
That's funny.
Oh god, it's the most ridiculous shit. Like, and some of his videos get really long too. Like, he'll go into like the socio-political reasons why these things exist, like the conditions that led to them being created, like the companies behind them, what was going on in the inner sphere at the time. It's really, really good. And he is like the lore master for BattleTech.
Yeah.
Like, there are more on YouTube now, like Big Red 40K and stuff like that are coming out. That are getting into
another guy a couple nights ago. He had like a Dutch name.
Like Van
Speer or something like that, or Van Speer or something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. That guy did a great series on like the Age of War.
He was good, but he was a lot. I like Tex better because Tex isn't as dry.
Yeah, Tex isn't dry. Whereas that guy's more of a just straight factual video. And Critical Rocket's another one for like for actual like mech knowledge and stuff. Like he is a breakdown on every mech. That's like 3 minutes. So if you just want to know what a mech is and where it came from, then it's really good. And Gamza, I've heard of his content. I just don't really interact with it a lot. I don't have anything against him. He's more on the gaming side of the hobby, whereas I'm more on the lore and story and video game side of the hobby. I do have a small army, but nobody plays around me, so oops. Who knows? Maybe in the new place. Well, actually, no. I'm moving to the middle of nowhere, so.
I would get into like the lore and the painting parts of it because I think that's fun. I used to build like models when I was a kid and stuff like that, so it's always something I wanted to get back into as well.
You'd love BattleTech then because it's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
If you don't mind dealing with really tiny shit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like I build Gunpla, and there's a reason why I build Gunpla, not just because I like Gundams, because they're large, and I have dumb hands.
Yeah, right. Like this is the size of your average mech.
Okay. Yeah. Like small enough to basically play like tabletop games with.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's exactly what they're for.
Yeah.
And me and Pope have been talking about this, and someone needs to do some work and get his ass fucking Tabletop Simulator and learn it.
Oops.
We can actually play BattleTech on stream.
That would be cool.
Fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Because Tabletop Simulator has all that covered.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with it, what it really legitimately what it is it can be used to play any tabletop game.
I'd wondered about that because I'd seen it on Steam, and I was thinking like it must just be like regular tabletop games. I didn't
No,
even
you can.
realize it's
People make their own boards, their own 3D models for miniatures.
okay.
I literally played a variant version of Magic the Gathering that I used to play with a buddy on that, and it felt like playing Magic face to face.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
unlike the other Magic the Gathering PC titles, nothing's automated.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
have to do everything like you would if you were actually playing.
Yeah. 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 That was something I tried getting into. I had friends take me to like the weekly like mini tournaments where you can do
Yep,
like
Friday
card
Night Magic.
pulls and yep. And
I used to
it's
play until Wizards of the Coast got stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking politically. I'm like, no, you're getting dumb. You're putting out too much product per year.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
yeah, for a while there in the 2000s, they were cranking out freaking sets like every week.
It was hard to keep up with. And that's when my friend introduced it to me, and I'm just like, there's just so much here already. There's so many cards that are like sunset or like ban, and like they're putting out new cards like all the time. And just like, dude, there's no way I can keep up with all this.
Well, the other nice thing though about Tabletop Simulator is the sheer fact that board games are so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
You can actually sit there and try something out and see if this is something you and your circle of friends that live near you could potentially turn around and play.
Yeah.
Because, for example, the Dark Souls board game started at $120 when it first came out.
Oof.
It's now sitting probably double, if not triple that, because it was a Kickstarter thing.
A Dark Souls board game. Interesting.
Yes.
Huh. I could see that getting pretty expensive. Yeah.
And because everything was miniature based and with like I think it was what boss was it? Oh, what the fuck's that one in the first City in the Sewers? I can't remember what the hell it's called. But they had one of the dragons from one of the games, and it was like a $60 mini.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it was large.
Yeah. That sounds nuts, though.
And that's one good thing about BattleTech too is they don't really change. Like a mech model is a mech model, and they kind of just treat them equally. Like they all cost the same.
And rules haven't changed much over the years.
Yeah, well, the rule set has changed, but not a lot. Like, so there's not like a dozen additions. I think Catalyst changed some rules when they came in, and because they took over the franchise when FASA went out of business.
Okay.
And then they relaunched BattleTech a few years ago now.
I guess I was wrong about the Dark Souls board game.
Is that
You can get it for $83.
nice?
Oh, okay.
I think
That's not that
I think the starter kit for BattleTech was like
It's
$65.
It's between 60 and 80 depending on where you get it.
Yeah, and what edition? I think there's
there's two of them out there. There's one that only comes with 2 minis, which is like fuck that, because that's not even a full lance.
Yeah, and you couldn't even play a game with it. Well, you could. It's just
And then the
a-
other one comes with 8, comes with 2 full lances.
Which
That would be fun.
that really is a starter kit because that's how many you'd need to really have a good game.
Yeah.
And yet, like Lord Thoughts is right. BattleTech is really, really easy in terms of what they'll allow. Like you can use non-standard models. Like all of mine are either MWO or MechWarrior 5 sculpts.
Okay.
Like which are more updated from the 80s models. They can be plastic, they can be metal, they can be pretty much anything as long as they fit on an inch hex base, then you're good. Whereas 40K, they're getting really fucking stupid with tournaments where like you can't even like the bits and stuff that you'll put on the models to spice them up a little bit. Even those, they're like, oh, if that's not an official Games Workshop or Forge World bit, then you're not allowed to use it. It's like, really?
Wow. That is that's pretty retarded.
And that's why Games Workshop is failing hard these days.
Yeah, because they treated their customers like shit and fucking
Yeah. Not surprising at all. kind of same thing.
Whereas that's why BattleTech seeing a resurgence is Catalyst is basically like here's the game, here's the rule book, have at it, boys.
Yeah, yeah.
And like all of their source books and stuff like that are print on demand. Like I have the first and second Succession War sitting right there, and like they go right down into details on like what units were where. And it's so like if you want to like start a camp, like create a campaign, like you can play it like D&D, like Mech Warrior Destiny is like that, where it's basically more like Dungeons and Dragons, just with big stompy robots, and therefore awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's really your creativity. Like I had a Merc company for a while that our motto was war crimes cost extra unless they're compelling. Because I absolutely I absolutely hate hate House Liao. And they basically stab everyone in the back. But and like it's the same as D&D. You can have like all this backstory and stuff like that, and mechs can have like quirks if you want to play with the advanced rules. Like I had one where basically to hobble me a little bit, the GM decided to be a dick and basically made it so that some of these mechs are hundreds of years old and have been rebuilt and repaired like 15 times. So basically, if I shut down due to an overheat, I couldn't restart my mech because the fusion reactor would barely start, wouldn't start unless like one of my Aztecs was literally sitting there banging on it with a stick in exactly the right place. So like that was the in-game excuse, but it's a lot of fun. The same thing as like D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which I mean, and I love that like these guys like it dovetails perfectly into the heavy metal scene because first of all it's giant fucking stompy robots.
Oh yeah.
And you also get some darker elements into the universe. And I mean, especially like 40K, there are bands out there that use 40K as their basis. Bolt Thrower is one of them. One of the big ones anyway, but there's others too, because like that's like a very heavy metal universe in and of itself. It's like Berserk, where it's just very violent, gory, dark.
Yep.
And I gotta feel like a lot of those guys that wrote stuff like this were listening to bands like this while they were writing, because it's very, very heavy and very evil.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
as is the way of a setting that has literal demons in it.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like during the 70s and 80s, like what was lumped in with the Satanic Panic. And like people thought that, it wasn't just heavy metal, but like video games and
Dungeons
like,
and Dragons.
games.
Yeah,
like
Dungeons and Dragons was satanic and shit. It's like, what?
Yeah. Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's all fantasy based. But
yeah, like if anyone actually said that to my face, I would just be like, "You're an idiot," and then walk away.
Yeah.
It's like, because first off, who cares? And second, no, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, these guys, for when they were coming out and where they were coming out, this was actually a pretty bold move for them because, as we've said in the past, Satanism was kind of illegal in a lot of places. Like Phil brought it up. And then you had the 80s version of a Karen.
Tipper Gore, yeah.
Yeah, yep. Fuck that hoe. And fuck her husband, too.
Yep.
Fucking Al Gore.
They can both go eat a dick.
And that was just proof that it wasn't all the Christians coming after the metal.
Yeah, it was
a lot of bored, fucking bureaucratic, Washington housewives that had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's just bored suburban moms that found their kid listening to this one day and immediately freaked out, rather than just being like, "Oh, it's okay."
Yeah.
Or, as Imperitus' favorite, "Oh, it's just a phase."
Yeah.
Yeah, that one didn't work out so well, did it?
No, not so much.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this with Gore. NYC will be underwater in 5 years. Sadly, unfortunately, it wasn't.
See, that's what got me off the whole whole global warming thing. Is they kept on saying it was going to happen, it was going to happen, it was going to happen.
And if you notice, it's always a decade away.
Yeah, exactly. And almost every election cycle, I see Democrats running on that platform, and I'm like,
and every decade it's a different thing too.
yeah.
In the 70s, it was the ozone layer. In the 80s, it was freaking acid rain.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And that continued into the 90s a little bit. Now it's global warming and all that. So it's all bullshit.
It's fear mongering.
It's a cash grab, essentially.
Yeah.
It is a cash grab, absolutely.
Manipulating people's fear for money. And
they're the ones who fly on, private jets all over the world and, live extremely lavish lifestyle. They just want the peasants to do exactly what they want.
Yeah. And it's all control.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I like the early heavy metal albums, because it was really the first time you saw them and punk standing up and go, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
We're going to do this stuff the way we want to do it, and we don't care.
Yep.
And you're not going to control us. And especially like early on, like the metal bands were like trying to appease people because they're like, hey, like this is like, they were definitely in the minority. And then as they started catching on, there's a famous picture of Ozzy at a protest for, like, he's hanging out in the crowd at a protest outside of a Ozzy Osbourne show.
Mm.
I've never seen that image.
Then he's hanging out in the crowd. He's just like, hi. And like after a while, we just started freaking, like you'd see, guys just like start making fun of them, where it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Mm.
Metallica did a song, really good song about that. So did Ozzy. For Metallica was Leper Messiah, kind of calling out all that fake outrage. And then Ozzy had Miracle Man, which was called out the priest who got caught in a sex scandal, Jerry something.
Jerry Falwell.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to have to be way more specific. That's happened way more than once.
I know, right?
It's like it's all like at this point it'd just be like when a priest gets involved in a sex scandal, it's like, please just tell me she's overage.
I know. Yeah, I don't mind those kind of sex scandals.
Yeah, it's like, at least if she's of age or like a normal type scumbag.
Yeah.
But that's just like, yeah. And like that's the funny part is the church was like preaching at us about morality and shit like that, and like what bad people we all were. Meanwhile, this shit's going on. We're just like, really? We're the asshole?
Well, I mean, I am, but
well, yeah, I mean they're not wrong, but people in glass houses.
Mm-hmm.
House of Cards, man.
Yeah, I mean that was a great show right up until somebody.
Yeah. Anyways, I didn't even realize that until I said it. Oh my god!
Oh, Kevin Spacey.
That.
You silly
my
man.
god! Fucking.
That's kind of what I like
Spacey.
about these streams. It goes in
that's why
any
I do
direction.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I love doing these is the conversation can just go anywhere. And we haven't even gotten to the last album yet, which this one I'm not as big a fan of. It's just kind of meh for me. But at the beginning, which is weird because it's the third album. But, whatever. They do them.
The beginning of the end?
Yeah,
I don't know if that was foreshadowing there or what.
Very true. But yeah, I mean, this album, it's not bad. It's not their best work by far. That definitely the first two are far better than this one. I think this is a little more lo-fi on the production end, going into more of the black metal sound.
A little bit, yeah.
This one's much less polished, much more stripped down, and much more atmospheric than the first two. So this is what, like, when I think they kind of were like, yeah, black metal's the direction we want to go. Because I mean, this was 87, so we're getting into, Bathory was around. Bathory was already very popular. Venom had been around a minute. So and Celtic Frost were already a thing. So like this was really starting to happen. Black
Yeah.
metal was really starting to become a thing, and I think they were going more towards that sound. Unfortunately, some of the guys decided that they wanted to go more commercial, and then King Diamond told them to fuck off, and left and founded King Diamond.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although they have toured together as Mercyful Fate since, I want to say, what, 2016 Imperitus?
Sounds about right.
It was about 5-6 years ago.
They're touring now too.
Are they?
Yeah.
As Mercyful Fate?
As Mercyful Fate. Yeah, they played
Interesting.
not several, but they have played a few festivals.
Okay. Okay.
I think King Diamond said in an interview that quote unquote fate was coming. So
Interesting. Okay. So maybe
we might get new Mercyful Fate in like 2022, 2023. Who knows?
that's interesting. I'd love to hear a new album from these guys.
I'd love to get a King Diamond album. When is he releasing his?
It's been a minute for him too, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got the lineup he always wanted too, because he's got Mickey D back. Now that Motorhead's unfortunately no longer with us. He's got Mickey D back on, or actually, I don't know if he does anymore. I think Mickey's playing with the Scorpions right now.
Yeah, Mickey's playing with the Scorpions. I don't know who they have on drums right now for their touring.
Because he was King Diamond's original drummer.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Oh, he's one of the best drummers in the business.
Yeah.
And then, but now I mean, they could do a double bill with it too. Do a Mercyful Fate / freaking King Diamond show.
That's what I was wondering.
Up the ass to see that.
Oh yeah, I mean that would be like, although that would be hard on King Diamond to sing vocals for two different bands on the same night.
I've seen bands pull off like multiple band roles. It's doable. It's doable. It's just it means you're playing for like close to 2 hours, 4 hours, maybe, depending on your set. But yeah, most like headlining bands usually do like around an hour set. These kind of guys, maybe if you're pulling in like a crowd of like 40, 60,000 people or something like that, you know, in the tens of thousands, you're probably doing like close to a 2-hour set, maybe. But yeah.
So you could do like an hour of King Diamond and then 90 to 80 minutes of Mercyful Fate.
Yeah. It all depends. It all depends on how they work it out.
I mean, I think King Diamond would definitely be the headliner for that one, because Mercyful Fate is big, but they haven't been around as a band for a while. And many more people know King Diamond than would know them.
Right. Yeah. I would think King Diamond would like headline. Yeah.
But that would be an interesting show, and especially getting a third act in there, like an actual black metal act as the opener. Maybe get one of the earlier black metal bands like Venom or somebody like that would be interesting. Although Kronos is notoriously hard to work with.
The Godfathers of black metal or festival.
Ooh, that would be interesting. A festival would be really interesting. They get like these guys, Venom. If somebody could get Emperor.
They do festivals still.
No, that's true. They just don't do anything in the recording studio, which is annoying.
Well, I mean, even then, they don't do every festival. They'll do like one or two big ones, like Hellfest or Wacken or something like that, and that's it for the year.
Yeah, and then they just go away again.
Yeah. And honestly, I've talked to people, you know, in bands in Europe. They even say they stop doing their normal touring if they're not already booked for a tour in the summer. They stop.
Yeah.
All they do then is the festival dates.
And that makes sense.
Because there's enough of them. They usually pay well enough. And if you're a smaller band, it's stupid amounts of exposure.
Yeah, like for the younger bands, it's really important to be at those festivals, because you know you're not just dealing with like, you know, one band's fans. You're dealing with everybody. Like everybody in the world wants to go to Wacken.
Yeah. Even I've wanted to go to Wacken.
I it's one of my bucket list items is to go to Europe and go to Wacken. Because like they usually have a hell of a lineup too.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see Hellfest at some point.
Hellfest would be great.
Yeah.
And like just to see metal in its home, essentially. Because
Mhm.
as much as we like it over here, Europe is where that.
Okay, so case in
musical
point,
is.
this is how big some of these festivals are. The band I mentioned the other day, last week, Bloodywood,
Yep.
their first tour of Europe included Wacken.
Nice.
Okay. Okay.
And they have a documentary on YouTube about their first tour and the history of the band and everything. And they were saying people were like, "Oh, you're gonna have a hard time in Europe. People aren't going to accept you." Blah 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 blah
Mm.
blah. And then they show all these footage of like on all these festivals they played. All these people were like, "Hey, you guys are in Bloodywood. Hey, you're Bloodywood, right?" And they're like, "Oh, hey, this is awesome." And then they're like, "Yeah, okay. These are the people that are going to give us a hard time."
Yeah.
It goes back to what I was saying last week: how metal's a universal language.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you if you're a good band,
spoken
people
language. Like, say, you know, case in point, an Indian band going to Germany, how much overlap in culture do you think there is there?
Yeah,
And they were accepted.
instantly too. It wasn't even like a, oh well, who are you? Oh, we're Bloodywood. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you guys are in Bloodywood. Like hell, even in Finland, my buddy was in a black metal band at the time.
Bloodywood. It's like a spin-off of Bollywood. I get it.
Was in a black metal band called Ashen Wings that played around here, and Ben never really went anywhere. So he got a job working in Helsinki, so he went over there. And like he was at a show just in the crowd, and somebody was like, "You're so and so, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, how do you know that?" Because like he had no idea in the YouTube era too. Like people that you've never expect will have listened to your stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like bands like the Who or Bloodywood never would have gotten exposure over here in in the 80s or 90s. Whereas now, I mean, if you have a hit song, it can pop off at any time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can go from being a nobody to an absolute world star in very, very short periods of time.
And if you don't follow up with that, you're going to fall off just as quick.
Yep, that's why that album tour rotation gets
well,
in
it's
bands'
funny
head.
because everybody bitches about the 80s being the era of the one-hit wonders. I think
Yeah,
we're in that era
era
more so now.
Yeah, every era has their one-hit wonders. The 90s had a ton of them too.
Right, but people always refer to a lot of these bands that came out of the 80s as, like Flock of Seagulls, for example. Not that they were a huge band, but they were bigger than just that one song that everybody knows them for.
Yeah.
Same with Men at Work, for example. There's another one. Everybody knows their two big hits that they had in the States, and that's it. Meanwhile, they put out like 5 albums after that one album.
Yeah, and things in different areas at different times too. Like like one band I know of, Angel, they never really hit it off in America, but in Europe they're big.
There's that too, but what I'm saying is like now you have all these artists come out, whatever genre it is, get this one song or track, whatever, that's hits it big on the radio or in clubs or whatever, and that's all you hear them do.
Yeah, and because that's the stuff people show up to see, and they don't ever really look into.
No, to me that just says they don't have any talent.
And then there's bands too.
I know it's not easy crafting multiple hit songs, but if you did it once, you can at least try again.
Yeah,
most of these quote unquote pop artists don't even try again.
Yeah, they just have that one album, that one single, and then they're done. Yeah, and they just go their own way.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's usually because the single's the only good song on the album, and the rest of the album is just fucking trash.
Yeah, that's usually the way of it is like if there's a band that you only ever hear really their radio stuff, the rest of the album's usually trash.
Yeah.
Which in heavy metal, that's not really the case because none of the good stuff is on the radio.
Well, there's that, but also at the same time, there are bands that have done like the one album thing and vanished.
Yeah,
the black metal band Kvist, Kvist. They have one album, and that's it. Nobody knows who they were, and the only thing people know now is they do nothing in metal at all of any kind.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is that
they came and they were pretty fucking good too,
and then just disappeared off the face of the earth. And
there's a lot of bands like that. Some bands did more than one album, like for example, Maniac Butcher.
Yep,
out of the Czech Republic. I think they only put out like 2 or 3 and then gone.
Well, I mean, sometimes bands just don't get along either. Like, the Police are famous for that, where Sting was enough of a pretentious douche that nobody in the band could stand him.
Well, I mean,
So they got together and like did like 3 records and then just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that
ego
can
is
happen.
definitely a factor in that, but that's a factor in just about everything.
Yeah, true. And it's hard to have everyone happy in a band because you all have different roles to play, and the singer's usually the attention grabber of everyone knows who he is.
I've heard it described. I can't remember who the fuck said it, but I've heard it described by some different musicians that being in a band is not just like running a business, but it's like being in a marriage because you do have to compromise on a lot of things. You have to work together as a unit, and there's going to be some sacrifices that are made. It kind of the same way with like being married to someone. You're in it for the long haul with the
Yeah,
band, and these people are people that you're going to be spending generally all of your time with for months on end, sometimes for a year or two on end when you're touring, and you're flying with them, you're sleeping with them, you're eating with them, you're drinking with them, a lot of fucking drinking with them, sometimes doing drugs with them. That's what bands do.
especially back in the 80s.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah, and even some other weird stuff too that I won't go into details. But yeah, no, I can't remember exactly where I was going with that, but no, I was fucking. There's uh, there's a lot of shit you have to work out with. It's yeah, but it is running a business because you have to make some fucking money with it. You know, that's why a lot of bands, like Imperitus was saying, like there's some bands that will, after having been like touring or they put out a few albums, they'll only do like one tour a year or do like one or two big festivals a year because they've already been doing this shit for so long. They've had their name out there, that there's no need for them to go on like a year-long tour for an album or something. People already fucking know them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things.
I think that's a dangerous mindset for a band to get into, though,
Mhm.
is because that breeds complacency.
Oh,
And
absolutely, yeah.
complacency in music, just like in everything else, absolutely kills whatever success you had.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because I mean, like if Emperor came out with a new album tomorrow, I mean, a lot of people would just be like, "Who?"
Right,
Because
right.
they haven't released one since what we found this out in Paris. What was it, like 2002,
Holy
something like that?
shit,
Was
20
their
years?
was their last record? Yeah,
Who is this now?
uh, Emperor.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was like early 2000s was their
Because it
last
was
record,
Opus
and
9.
they're still tour. They just don't do anything else.
Oh, they do, just not for Emperor.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing with
Uh,
black metal is all of these guys are in like 3 other bands,
that makes sense, yeah.
and like it's a very interesting thing, a very freewheeling economy within black metal of like these guys will all just travel around in different circles, and just kind of they're all part of like this one's in this band with these guys, and then on every other Tuesday he's in this. He's
It
in
was 2001
2001, so it's been
for
21
Prometheus,
years.
the Discipline of Fire and Demise.
Mm,
And it was 9 Equilibrium, not Opus 9. That's another album somewhere.
it's a long fucking time, man.
Yeah, that
And-
always gets me about albums, regardless of the genre. It's like I'll be listening, like, oh yeah, this was really good. It only came out like 5 or 6 years ago, or whatever. I remember when it came out, and then it's like, no, dummy, it came out 15 years ago, or 20 years
Right.
ago. In some cases, 30 years ago. It's like, oh,
Man.
Right, I'm old now. I forgot that.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, right.
uh
Or it's like it's almost like that moment where you start hearing like songs you grew up with on the classic rock station. It's like, no, fuck off. I'm not old. I'm not old. Damn it.
yeah.
It's like nowadays there's songs on the classic rock station. I remember when they came out. I had that album.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's a trip, man.
and like this, and these guys are one of those bands too. Like internal problems can lead to a band just disappearing off the face of the earth for 20 years or so, and then usually they'll make up at some point and do a reunion tour or something like that. And absolutely soulless. And unfortunately, I have plenty of both. my 20s were not a kind time to my body. But no, that like this is one of those things too where a lot of bands either turn into something else, like, you know, in this case, King Diamond came out of this, and the rest of them went on to do other things. Or, you know, it's just, unfortunately, sometimes the band just goes away. Like one of the next bands we're going to be talking about is Hellhammer and Celtic Frost. And by the time Hellhammer's demo got published and out, they had already been Celtic Frost for like a decade. Like before Hellhammer was even released. Which is too bad because it was actually a good record. They were just one of those guys that were made it on the underground scene, but never really got any attention. And then as Celtic Frost, they really took off.
Okay.
But
I remember seeing their name when I was like scrolling through some different bands on YouTube. Yeah, haven't listened to them.
They're good. I like them a lot. They were another one that was more on like the Bathory side of black metal, where it was very much more raw, punky, and aggressive. Whereas these guys, I mean, like I said, these are basically heavy metal just with extremely dark lyricism.
Yeah,
which is the other way to come into. And yeah, this is another thing too. Is I was raised by, you know, two people from this who grew up in the '60s, so I know a lot of that stuff too.
Same.
And then you'll realize, wow, that's 60 years old. Holy shit!
yeah.
My mom still has first pressings of Beatle albums and Led Zeppelin albums.
Wow.
Incredible.
First pressings too,
Yes.
like vinyl pressings. Those are collectibles. Holy shit.
Yeah. Like, unfortunately, my dad got rid of most of his vinyl collection, just sold it off because we didn't have a record player anymore, and he just didn't want to keep it around. There was some really interesting stuff in there.
My parents, they had a lot of like country albums and some Johnny Cash records. They had some of his gospel vinyls too. Unfortunately, thing with the ones that they had is because they had gotten rid of their record player, they kind of just left it in storage in the garage, and so the vinyls, like I remember when it was like a 14 or 15 sometime, yeah, like when I was first in high school and we were doing a yard sale and we pull out all these old vinyls. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know you guys had these vinyls. Can we, like, you know, put them out for collection? He's like, my dad's like, nah, we have to throw them away, they're all warped. I'm like, I don't want to listen to them, I just want to display them.
Yeah, right. Like, because the
Yeah.
album art back then
Yeah.
was a big piece of it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like we've been saying in the pre-stream and this one and Iron Maiden as well, like some of these guys like had really fucking iconic album covers. Metallica as well, with, you know, Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. Like,
Yeah,
everyone knows those covers now.
that'll be something I'll do is like as I get older is like look for like some of those old classic heavy metal like vinyl records just to get them for the album art. But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. Be careful how you store your vinyls. Don't leave them sitting in a garage.
Yeah, water damage is a thing. You will not, and you know, there's there's wear and tear for you. Yeah, heat is the big killer of them.
Yeah,
because vinyl is not a vinyl becomes a very pliable substance when it gets heated. So it'll warp and then it's worthless.
Yeah,
unfortunately, because collectors aren't going to go for, you know, vinyl that's not in good shape.
Yeah.
Which it's funny now though that like we have all this high tech and yet vinyl is coming back in fashion.
I know. I was just in Best Buy yesterday looking for CDs, and they don't have any CDs there anymore. But they got vinyl.
Yep, and bands are starting to release new albums in vinyl as well. Like Sabaton did it with The War to End All Wars, and then Ghost just did it for their last couple of releases, including an EP, like a double-sided single that was a hilarious name, and very fitting for this stream. 7 inches of Satanic Panic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I love about Ghost is the vaguely sexual and also evil references.
That's funny.
And like Tobias is great live too. I've seen Ghost before, and it's a very theatrical. Like that's coming back too. Is like the theater of heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of bands doing like very theatrical live performances. Like Iron Maiden's always been famous for it. Like especially during like Aces High, like they'll have a almost full size Hawker Hurricane drop down out of the ceiling.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Like they go all out. Dragon Master, I think they do have The Last Stand on vinyl. I think they did release that eventually. I don't know if it was released that way originally or whether they produced it later, but I think it is. I think Corollas Rex is as well. Which, in terms of theatrical stage presence, Alice Cooper's up there, and so is King Diamond. Like you see their stage presence. It's fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And Wasp used to put on a hell of a live show too.
I can't wait to see them in December. Holy shit!
Oh, that'll be a great show.
Yeah, especially like for certain eras of that band, like they got banned from playing in some places.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, and there's a reason they don't tour the U.S. anymore, or very often, is Rammstein, because none of the venues over here will insure them.
I remember you talking about that. Yeah, they have some kind of like fire in a venue or something.
Well, no, it's just that their stage show involves a ton of pyro.
Oh, okay.
Like half the stage will be on fire, including the band.
For which band?
Yeah, the lead singer sets himself on fire.
Yeah, he has a thing with that.
Oh, Rammstein.
Yeah,
Rammstein. Yeah. That's
He likes setting himself on fire.
Well, that's like Andre from Midnight After Dark posted something about seeing Rammstein in Norway, like now. And he's like, "Oh, it's a chill day in Norway." I'm like, "Not with all that pyro, it's not."
Yeah, right.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, I saw them when they came through Worcester in 2012, and like even a fair bit back from the stage, like you can just feel the heat from all the pyro. Just it was insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's a band I definitely need to see live. I don't know why I kept kicking the can down the road on them. Got to get to it.
They're a great band. I've been a fan of them since they first came out, really, or first made it big here, and then got into some of their older stuff. Their new record, I was not impressed with, unfortunately. And Soul Assassin. That was a rather interesting.
On top of a cannon, what?
Yeah, basically, this guy stepped into a magnesium flare right as it went off, and that actually was a big problem.
Holy shit!
Montreal, they were touring with Guns N' Roses at the time, and Metallica
Hey Scott, we got Sporking in the chat. How's it going, Scott?
What's up?
But he's a great dude. You should, if you guys don't sub to him, you absolutely should.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Scott's good people.
He was actually the first guy I ever met in the fellowship in real life.
Okay, very cool.
When we all hung out in Natick.
Yeah, so I got to stream with him once on Mad's channel. I'll have to do that again at some point.
Yeah, but no, I mean Hetfield really got messed up out of that one. He spent like the rest of the year healing.
Wow.
And Guns N' Roses then made the situation worse.
Yeah.
Because basically, for some reason, Axl got it in his fucking head that James did it on purpose to like upstage them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he did. Scott's right. He did like 2 songs and then threw the mic down and then walked off. And that caused a fucking riot.
Yeah. I remember they had a whole section on that event just alone in that year and a half in the life of documentary of Metallica, which I owned on VHS and DVD since I was a kid, and that's a significant moment. His skin on his left arm boiled up like the Toxic Avenger. That's how hot that shit was. He
I mean,
died right then and there.
Yeah, magnesium burns at like 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not nice.
Wow, that is some crazy shit.
Which is also why they rehearse a lot during their shows, and you memorize where your pyro is because you don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just forgot once and damn near killed him. Like, you're absolutely right. It could have killed him instantly. But yeah, man, and pyrotechnics are a big thing in freaking.
Metallica, yeah, has a lot of pyrotechnics.
Well, just metal in general. Everybody uses pyro when they can. Like, they have venues that won't allow it now. Like, especially after the what was it, the nightclub fire in Rhode Island?
Oh, with White Lion.
With Great White, yeah.
Oh yeah, Great White.
Where they were using some pyro in an area they really shouldn't have been. Like, like I could say, like,
Are we talking about Great White?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Because as soon as I heard they used pyro in this place, they shouldn't have. That's got to be Great White.
It's funny that's what they became known for, not any of their music.
What a band is known for messing up some shit, like fucking up with pyro. That's they're not
for
good.
the one time they did it wrong.
Oh man.
It's like, well, I mean, it's a psychological fact that people remember the negative a lot better than they do positive. Like, you can do things absolutely perfect a million times. You screw it up once and you'll be the asshole forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't use pyro in small clubs, period.
That was just freaking... Yeah, that was one of those, like, I can see why. I mean, you're used to that stage presence, but you're in a nightclub. Don't be using pyro in that kind of space.
Yeah, use light shows if anything, man. Put a couple of fog machines, like pyros. That's meant for big outdoor stages,
or being or like, you know, a big arena. At the very least, at the very least, not like, you know, a bar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because that's how you set the building on fire.
Oh man,
unintentionally, unlike the black metal bands of Norway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, at least when they burned the place down, they meant to.
Well,
right.
What's funny is Hellhammer from Mayhem came out and said something about that. He regretted the fact that they were burning the medieval churches down.
Right.
And he goes, what they should have been doing is burning down the modern ones on Sunday. Like, he flat out said that, and people were like, okay.
You know, the reason he didn't want those ancient churches burned down, right?
Like, yeah,
they used to be pagan churches.
Yeah, they were on most, and that's something Varg from Burzum said. One of the reasons why he burned down this particular church was to point out that under the church was a pagan altar.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a big thing in the Middle Ages, because Scandinavia had just Christianized. So they were putting up, like, they were quick to, like, you know, stamp out the paganism. So they would, like, build a church right on the same site and make sure that nobody could be practicing.
Well, yeah.
And
a lot of people are...
I just wanted to quickly say that was smart of Christianity in terms of getting people to adopt a new religion. They just basically put all of the festivals on the same days of all the old pagan festivals.
and co-opted a lot of the imagery and some of the figures from a lot of pagan mythology into, like, the reason Christmas is when it is because that was the festival of Sol Invictus in Rome before that. Which, I mean,
true.
Which, like, you know, it was like, the new religion's fine and all, but we're not giving up our 2-week orgy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do remember too, like, a lot of it was also done by bloodshed, and I mean, it was also forced upon a lot of these tribes. You know, they still wanted to hold on to their pagan beliefs, but Christianity was taking over everything, and I think it was a move on their part to try to get them to more readily adopt Christianity by...
Well, they had to do something because Norway being Christianized was under force of death. You either you did it or we're fucking killing your family.
Yeah,
Which,
and it was done to them really after the Viking Age because no one wanted to deal with with the Vikings ever again.
yeah, it's a good point. But there's a, a lot of bloodshed in Christianity. A lot of
Welcome
bloodshed.
to European history in general.
True.
Yeah.
Where they've all been at war with everyone else at one point or another. I mean, I think France and England are going for round 31.
Yeah.
Because they
I would
really
not
just
be surprised.
they
I
really
don't know
just
about round 31, but those two, it goes even back before they were known as Britain and France.
yeah, true.
And it was because of my people yet again.
God,
The Normans.
goddamn Norwegians! You just run around messing everybody.
The Norman invasion of England.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, that's my side of the family too.
Same here.
My family's English, but they're the Norman English.
I have just a very distant relation to William the Conqueror.
I probably am too. Like probably a very, very distant cousin. But
Man, can you imagine how many children those guys sired? Just being
a
related.
ton. That and graping the local populace was a common practice back then.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a reason like a third of humanity is related to Genghis Khan directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is insane when you think about it.
Not really, considering they had the largest land empire in the world of all time.
Well, yeah, but like he personally graped that many people.
So he was. What the hell's the guy's name? God damn it! I had a joke for this.
Johnny Appleseed?
No. So he's the Wilt Chamberlain of Mongolia.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I mean, what the fuck? But you also got to remember too. Back then, kids died young frequently all the time.
Yeah.
So having multiple upon multiple upon multiple of kids just increased the odds of at least one of them living.
Yep.
Yeah.
Point, man.
Just
diseases, and this is before medicine, actual modern medicine. A lot of it was, folk, old traditional like folk stuff.
Yeah, the only
hazelnut and all this little stuff like you know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah, and all the medical knowledge that they did have at one point was lost with the burning of Alexandria, and after the fall of Rome, most people forgot it because even if it was written down somewhere, most people couldn't read, and they certainly couldn't read Latin.
Right.
So basically, the clergy would have been the only ones who would know about it,
and they hung on to that power for a long time.
Oh yeah, they lasted from roughly about the 500s to the 1500s, and the Enlightenment was really the end of that. I mean, and they straight up, like when we say they didn't like people who didn't follow the script, like they would like, I think it was one of Galileo's and Copernicus's students that refused to renounce what they had said in their books, which Galileo was just smart enough to do. And he burned for it, literally. Like they literally burned him at the stake as a no shit heretic. And that's also why England kind of became the center of science in Europe, because English was the one language that the church couldn't read.
Yeah,
because England wasn't Catholic. So good guy England. Once.
Every once in a while, they do something right.
If our ancestors could see us now, man, I wonder what they'd think.
They'd be, absolutely incredulous that, first of all, England sired an even bigger nation.
Yeah.
And also, like, even during the colonial era, like, they just kind of kept absorbing these little trade posts and stuff, and eventually they would just become English colonies. And like, there wasn't like any like rhyme or reason to it. So probably in the 1850s, sometime some guy looked at a map of the British Empire and went, "What do you mean we own like a quarter of the world?" It's like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
I just think it takes a lot of balls to even be, sail somewhere that you've never even seen, has never been even.
And Galileo was not. His student Bruno, however, was, because he wouldn't renounce the idea is the same thing.
An Italian guy named Bruno. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
But no,
Italians being Italians, even in the Renaissance.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of that too, of Italy just being a massive mess all the time.
Hmm.
I mean, hell, they weren't even a unified kingdom until like 1870.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you think about it, after Rome, Italy was a mess for a long time. Various kingdoms and city-states, and
All of whom were at war with each other.
Yeah. There was really no instituted country for.
It was just a series of kingdoms that all roughly spoke the same language.
Yeah.
And
People
then,
bemoan. I was just going to say, people bemoan empires, but sometimes when they fall, it's worse.
oh yeah, I mean the breakup of an empire is the worst period because nobody's in charge,
Right. Yeah.
and a lot of the worst parts of the fall of a government happened during that period. Well, unfortunately, it's usually never like the government falls and then something better comes out of it. It's something better eventually comes out of it, and most of the time you end up with whoever's the most brutal of the assholes in the group.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that is kind of true what Soul Assassin's saying here, where Rome never really fell; it was just became the church.
Yeah, it's the heathen part of Rome definitely fell, but it became it went to what's that fucking Hagia Sophia? It became Constantinople and became the Holy Roman Empire, right?
No, that became the Byzantine Empire.
The Byzantine, but yeah,
The Holy Roman Empire was Germany.
okay,
Yeah.
Which
What is
always
now
made me
Germany?
shake my head and go, "What the fuck?
Yeah, it was the one.
How
It
are
was
you
the one.
Roman?"
Yeah, it was the one place Rome didn't conquer in Europe
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted nothing to do with the Romans, and yet started calling themselves the Holy Roman Empire after a while.
Makes no sense. But,
Why? Why Germany? Why do you do these things?
yeah.
Hey, Bostonians are easy to communicate with. We're not that bad.
Yeah, you just ignore them.
No, we say the same thing about New Yorkers.
Exactly. That's why we all get along, and then we just yell at people from Connecticut outside of Scott.
It's true. It's true. And Brightest Day too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Byzantine Empire is Eastern Rome from Wish, where like it had all the trappings of the Roman Empire, but like none of the actual organization or ability.
They did turn that around after a while, though.
That's true. Like,
By the time the Crusades started happening, the Byzantine Empire was a legit empire.
yeah, like they were actually like figuring it out and starting to become
Yeah.
organized.
It was just that early period was known for a lot of internecine warfare and political fucking backstabbing and intrigue. And
They were known for that.
they should set an HBO show during the Byzantine Empire. That'd be fucking epic.
That would be.
it'd probably be really boring too,
Boring.
because it wasn't this real fast kind of like political warfare, so to speak. It was long-term, slow.
Oh, I see.
It was more like Dune, where it was like
Not
decades worth,
not
decades
good ground
worth of,
for drama.
yeah, it was like decades worth of posturing and political maneuvering, and then like 15 seconds of actual violence.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was a long build up to a lot of stuff. You started seeing more stuff happen in during the Crusades period, where you had families doing whatever they could to take and retain power.
Yeah. And meanwhile, trying to fend off the fucking Crusaders, because the first Crusade actually hit freaking.
Well, no, they were on the side of the Crusaders.
Yes, but only to a point. And a couple of the Crusade armies actually ended up ransacking parts of the Byzantine Empire.
Well, hey, when you need supplies and you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's true.
I mean, it's like I always say, if the apocalypse ever hits, yeah, I'm prepared for certain stuff. But if it was something I don't need to have, my neighbor does.
Right?
And I have weapons.
What was that? Famous line for, I forget who said it, but it was like, "He who hath bread but no gun hath no bread."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's the way of things, and it was certainly true in the medieval period where, basically everybody was fighting everybody, and if you weren't under the church's protection, you were
Mhm.
fucking screwed.
Oh, and Boosh, it's not. They didn't have much industry because they didn't need it. They were a trade hub, and they traded with everybody, be it the Muslim countries, Western Europe, East Asia, wherever, and that was the whole deal with them.
I mean,
That's why
the Silk Road ended with ended in Constantinople, essentially.
Yeah.
And hey, Mila, good to see you.
Hi, Mela.
But no, I mean, and the history of Europe, especially, is basically the history, and basically inspired a lot of heavy metal, like, because it's very interesting, very dark. Well, there's a lot of fire.
a lot of fire and steel.
Yep.
Explains the pyrotechnics.
Yeah, it just might.
And certainly some of the outfits.
I don't know. You still can't explain that, leather fuck harness the guy from Marduk was wearing, shaped like a pentagram.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Go look up the video for World Funeral by Marduk. The guy looks like he's wearing a fucking leather strap fuck harness, and all the straps look like a fucking pentagram.
They do. It is really cringy. It's just like, oh. It's like, and some of it too, like, Kronos in the freaking 80s had like a freaking leather thong on. It was just like, it's like, please no.
It's still better than fucking that one band from black metal band from my area of New York. Actually, they got Profanatica. They did an album cover naked.
Oh God,
that's why.
Horror, because shock value.
Yeah, that's fair. But that's one of those just like. And
I hung out with the main guy of that band, and he was definitely a weird cat.
Well, I mean, most black metal artists are.
Yeah, no, like this guy was weird even for the black metal scene.
Oh, one of those people.
Yeah, like I was at this one gig in Jersey. It was Black Witchery, Krieg, Fog, and Profanatica. And I'm hanging out with the guys from Fog because I knew the founder, because he used to work at the one local metal shop. And he's the one who turned me on to a lot of bands. And I kept buying, I was buying shit from his distro, which still exists now, Dark Horizon Records. And not only we're hanging out downstairs in the bottom of the venue, and of course, security tried throwing me out 3 times, and he had told the security guy to fuck off. He's with the band. That was
nice.
Kind of cool. We're sitting there smoking fucking joint after joint after joint after joint in like, in a venue in New Jersey, right by the city. And the guy Paul was sitting downstairs from Profanatica. He's got like this styrofoam cup. We thought he was drinking coffee. Turned out it was a cup of worms, like you get from like a bait shop. He's like, debating on whether I'm gonna, eat these on stage tonight or not.
Okay, then that's a little.
Yeah,
that's a little out there. But again, black metal, it's mostly for shock value.
Yeah, pretty much. But they were. Yeah, the one guy from Black Witchery, Mila, was fucking with me the entire night. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I bet you're into all that man metal, like, Samson. I'm like, what?
What the fuck?
Although he was kind of impressed that I even knew who Samson was.
Yeah, they're kind of an obscure one.
That's Dickinson's old band.
Yep. But they never really went anywhere, unfortunately.
Nope.
Like they just kind of did like 2-3 albums, and then just kind of went their own way, because once Dickinson left there, he was really the talent behind the band. So
yeah, pretty much.
And he went off to bigger and better things. But yeah, we've been going for damn near 2 hours at this point, so I think we've covered pretty much everything we need to on these albums anyway. So time to go around the horn and people know what you're up to. We'll start off with you, Herbs.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'll be streaming a little bit tomorrow on Twitch and actually working on some stuff that I'm going to be putting up for a gaming YouTube channel. I know I talked about like a movie channel I'm going to do. That's taking a lot of work, a lot of research. So I'll do some gaming stuff, but yeah, no, just working on that. I'm gonna be streaming throughout the week. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays probably. But yeah, other than that, you can also find me here just about every Sunday, and then Friday nights on the Shag Wars channel for the Midnight Oil. I'm also on his YouTube channel as well. But yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me on again, man. It was a lot of fun.
Always good to have you, man.
Yep,
And then
yep.
Sentinel, you're up.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on, guys. I went to my Amazon and just added a bunch of the Merciful Fate to my wish list. And since they just put out remasters of all those albums in 2020, I'm sure they've never sound better. But I wanted to thank Pope, Imperitus, Herbs. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Right now, I'm pretty busy with the with other things going on, and so I'm not uploading content to my channel as often. But you can find me, the Sentinel. Just type in the Sentinel. I'll show up in the YouTube search results, and I'm also on Instagram at the Sentinel43. You can find me. All right.
Yep. And I tried to create an Instagram account and it won't let me.
Oh, well?
Because I'm already banned on Facebook. So,
Oh, fuck that shit.
oops.
Are you yelling at Germans again?
No, this one was all a lot of old memes that I shared back in like 2015. That the algorithm just kept dragging up like 5 years later and giving me a 30-day ban for. I'm like, I think I need
Bullshit. They should have some kind of grandfather thing where they give you the benefit of the doubt.
Right?
It's like one day it's fine, and then the next it's not.
Not to mention, it's all memes I found on Facebook. So why am I getting banned for it?
That is dumb.
And Imperitus, what do you got going on, man?
Well, I got a few album review videos in the works. So I'm going to be reviewing the first Bloodywood album. Well, their only album. The first Emperor album, Into the Nightside Eclipse, and
Excellent.
then
That's an amazing album.
yes, it is, and a killer Finnish black metal band, Sargeist, with their Let the Devil In album.
Excellent.
And then tomorrow you can find me on that 70s Rock Fans show. We'll be talking Zardoz.
Yeah.
Damn it, 70s. And then other than that, Thursday evenings or night, depending on what time I get out of work, if I have to work, me and Matt Foulball Productions are been doing some gaming, and that's going to be a regular thing on Thursdays. And then most Fridays you can find me on his channel for the MF or Cocktail Lounge. So if you're up for some interesting conversation and making fun of Matt endlessly, then come check that show out. It's definitely a lot of fun, a lot of good guests, a lot of good people hanging out there.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be on there at some point as well, just because Matt seems like a really good dude, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. And then as for me, tomorrow you can find me on that 70s Rock Fans channel, where we will be discussing the interesting movie that 70s selected for us. And then other than that, you can find me here. I'm sometimes very irregularly over on Twitch, where I run a small gaming stream, usually BattleTech or some other sort of mech-related content. Maybe some 40K stuff if I ever get good enough at Chaos Gate to actually show you guys gameplay, because that playthrough did not go well. But yeah, you can find me over there, and then every Sunday here for Rock and Roll Religion for the foreseeable future. Anyway, I'll be moving in a few months, so that may get a little jumbled there. But no, it's like I said, it's been great to have you guys all here. It's been great talking some really good topics, and this is. Yeah, I love doing this. And like I said, we just hit 100 subs. So thank you all for fucking subbing. Thank you for being here, showing up in the chat. You guys have been always awesome. Dragon Master, I don't have a date for the Sabaton stream yet, but we can try to set that up fairly soon. So I'd say within a month. But with that being said, that's it for this week. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys next time.